Welcome back to Open Line. Once again, we are talking politics tonight, jumping off the governor's State of the State address. We've welcomed calls. We've been talking a little bit about what's happening in Washington, too. Pat Nolan alongside me tonight. Larry is on the line. Hi, Larry.
Hello.
Hi there. Go ahead.
Here, okay.
Yeah.
Hear me up there?
Yep.
I didn't even catch the State of the Union, but I had a question regarding the next election and kind of what's going on in the country now and everything. My question about the walls, when do you think the wall's going to get done? And two, if he don't get it done, you think he'll get reelected? Because the way the economy's roaring right now, I mean, I'm just kind of wondering how he couldn't get elected again, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, good question, Larry. Thank you for calling in tonight. Let's start with the wall. We will probably hear some about it tomorrow night.
I think so, and first, Congress has got to appropriate more money to build it. There have been some prototypes put together for what they would kind of build. Now, how long it would take to build it, I don't have any idea. I suspect it's not something that's going to be done in a year or 2 years, or maybe even within the amount of time he's got in the rest of his first term.
Can he get reelected without having that wall in progress?
I don't know if it needs to be completely done. I do think it needs to be started and on its way, and whether Mexico pays for it or not somehow, who knows. But I think the more important thing for him is to continue to have the economy to stay strong. It's the one thing that I think gets a little underestimated, how much the stock market has gone up, how much jobs have continued to go up.
Setting record after record.
And yes, some of these things were started and going in that direction under President Obama. So I don't want to give him any less credit. But the longer it continues under the Trump administration, that becomes more of his, because some things that he's done. And because presidents always get way too much credit for what goes wrong, and they get way too much blame for anything that goes wrong. So if there's a blip someplace, then that could be his problem. But I think if the economy stays strong and he doesn't run afoul of any of this Russia stuff or anything else, he's a lot stronger candidate for re-election than I think some people would like to admit.
And I'm sure we're going to hear about the tax reform tomorrow night as well.
Oh, absolutely.
He's got to tout that.
Well, that's his major accomplishment in the last year of Congress. So, and remember, he'll be talking about this on the eve of February, which is the month that the Internal Revenue will start changing and how much is withholded out of our pay every paycheck. Right. So if people start seeing more money in that, and the more they see in that, the more likely it is again that he will turn thoughts about that particular bill, which was not very popular when Congress passed it. We might see a change about that because why? Because it puts money in your pocket, if indeed that's what happened. Now, that still remains to be seen exactly what all that's going to be when we see what it is.
Yeah, is it $2? Is it $200?
Well, I mean, that makes it, people will like having the $2, but they'd like a whole lot more if it was the $200. And so I think people have their own expectations of what's enough and what's not enough. But I do think the economy, as we always have heard from before, if it's the economy stupid, that will be a big issue, as it always is every year, particularly when we come up to 2020.
You had some interesting perspective on, let's bring it back to the state now for the next governor's race. Tennessee is a red state, but not when it comes to electing a governor, per se.
Not necessarily. In fact, we'll be breaking the tie. Since 1966, when Buford Ellington was elected to his last 4-year term, since that time, the Democrats and the Republicans have split the time evenly in that office.
That shocks me.
That's pretty hard to believe. Not only have they split it, but no Democratic governor has been succeeded by another Democratic governor. No Republican governor has been succeeded by a Republican governor. So every time they've had a chance to do that, and the beginning part of that, you had to change, you had to select a new governor every 4 years because they only serve one term. Now with 8 years, we've never defeated a governor for re-election, but we've never continued his party in power since that time. So it'll be interesting to see whether this is the true affirmation that Tennessee is a red state and going to stay that way, or are we going to continue to see that back and forth in that particular office? We haven't seen it as much, say, in the U.S. Senate. We haven't seen it as much in the House. And we certainly haven't seen it the last few years in the legislature, although there were times in the last couple of decades where the Democrats had that kind of supermajority, not as big as the Republicans, but something like that in both houses of the legislature.
Very interesting. See if history continues to repeat itself.
Well, just something to watch as you go through the year looking at the governor's race.
Most certainly. All right, we're coming back right after this. Stay where you are.